welcome back to the channel from Tokyo. This isn't the start of a series of Japan. Rather, think of it as a bonus stop at the end of a stretch of continuous travel that once I leave here will take me back home to the US after literally traveling around the world. And what better time to be here than on a beautiful spring day with Japan's famous cherry trees in bloom. In fact, I'm in one of the best places to see those blossoms here in Shinjuku National Gardens. And as you'll see, it's spectacular. I arrived here yesterday at Narita Airport, and after visiting a string of countries that are, shall we say, much less expensive than Japan. But I would say if you're considering a visit here, don't be overly intimidated by the horror stories you hear about how much things cost. It is expensive, there's no doubt about that, but there are ways to mitigate the expenses. Narita Airport is 72 kilometers from my hotel, and it can easily cost $70 to $100 for an airport transfer, depending on where you're going. I took the JR line, the Japan Railways line, from Narita directly to Shinjuku Station. That cost about $25 US for the hour-and-a-half train ride. Shinjuku district, where I'm staying, is popular both for convenience and for its vibrant nightlife. These gardens are just a 10-minute walk from my hotel, as is the Shinjuku train station, which is in a slightly different direction. My hotel room is small but very comfortable. By booking it well in advance, I paid the equivalent of $43 per night US, what some might commonly pay for a dorm room in a hostel, for a private room with bath and with the breakfast included. Not to mention a pretty decent 12th floor view. I'm walking in the Japanese gardens here, which are among the loveliest in Tokyo. There's not only the Japanese garden, but there are two others, more formal, European style. They're all three magnificent, and especially on a day like this, when there's hardly a cloud in the sky. There are 70 species of cherries on these grounds. They bloom at different times, of course. There are other flowering trees here, including redbuds, crab apples, and there are azaleas here as well that will be blooming very soon.
Go ahead. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I'm here in the Harajuku district, which is often described as ground zero of Tokyo's youth culture, with its youth-oriented shops and eateries. And as you can see, it's quite crowded here on Takeshita Street. Almost everything you see on this crowded street, the unique fashion stores, the sweet shops, cafes, is geared to teenagers and young adults attracted to Japan's so-called kawaii youth culture. Kawaii literally means cute or adorable in Japanese. And people here use the word all the time. But in this context, kawaii is essentially Japanese pop culture spilling over into fashion, popular anime characters, food, you name it. If you're still confused as to what I'm talking about, I have just two words for you. Hello Kitty. I'm here in the middle of Tokyo's Shibuya district, which, as with much of the city, is teeming with people. But there's a crosswalk here in the middle of several giant shopping complexes that's worth seeing. It's famous for being the biggest scramble crossing in the world. During peak rush hour, as many as 3,000 people cross the street here at one time. Okay, so it's my turn. I know, this just in, man crosses street. Before we move on from here, I have to show you something, a statue outside the Shibuya metro station that may resonate with some of you. It's a statue of a dog, but not just any dog. This is Hachiko, or Hachi, a Japanese Akita who died in 1935 at age 12, but not before he touched the hearts of millions of people all over the world. His owner, a university professor, lived nearby, and from the time he was a puppy, Hachi would come to the station at the same time every day to meet his master getting off the train. That is until one day in 1925, the professor didn't show up. He'd had a cerebral hemorrhage and had died at work. Maybe you recall the rest of the story. Every day at the same time for the next 9 years until his death, the dog came here to wait and watch for his owner, the professor. He became a living legend for his loyalty. And over that span, strangers at the station fed him and looked out for him, treating him as their collective beloved pet. And so it is today. You see his statue as a tribute to a dog that Tokyo and indeed Japan has never forgotten. I'm at Tokyo Station in the heart of the city, sprawling brick building that's been a fixture here since 1914. And if you come to Tokyo, chances are you'll be here too at some point, because this transit station is a hub for both the Japan Railways system, metro subways, and buses. This is the busiest train station in Japan, with more than 500,000 people passing through here each day, and more than 4,000 trains arriving and departing. You could more or less think of it as the nerve center of the Chiyoda district of central Tokyo, because a network of pedestrian tunnels lies beneath it, connecting nearby office buildings and shopping malls. It also happens to be near where we're going next, to the Imperial Palace. The walkways, the streets in this prime area of the city are spotlessly clean, but that's also true of everywhere else in the city that I've been thus far. And it really does make a visit here something special, warranting mentioning. These imperial grounds are, of course, home to Japan's royal family and have been since 1868, when they relocated here from Kyoto. The inner part of the compound, if you will, is not open to the public. It's the place where the royal family still lives, and it's only open 2 days out of the year to get really into the heart of the property. So that's out of the question for most visitors here. People flock here for access to the spectacular parks and gardens. Palace compound is built on the site of the old Edo castle from the 1400s, which no longer exists. Unfortunately, what wasn't destroyed by fires down through the centuries was finished off during the bombing of Tokyo during World War II. Tokyo, of course, is one of the world's most expensive cities. And for those of you old enough to remember Japan's famous real estate bubble of the 1980s, try to take this in. During the height of the bubble, the value of real estate that these grounds encompass was assessed at $139,000 US per square foot, making this the most expensive place on Earth.
If Tokyo glistens in the daytime, it positively shines at night. The streets provide one big sound and light show, somehow making the city less impersonal, more welcoming. The kind of place you want to come back to.
Well, that's it for me from Tokyo. It's been a blast, just not long enough. And it's also been a blast with my entire circular trip these past few months. Thanks again for subscribing to the channel and liking the videos. Ciao and peace.